In the midst of the bustling city of Brooklyn, Miles Morales, the full-time friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, swung through the concrete jungle with all the grace and power that came with his spider abilities. The sun was setting on another day of keeping the city safe, and Miles was feeling good. As he rounded the corner of a skyscraper, he saw a familiar figure swinging towards him. It was Gwen Stacy, his old friend from another universe. They had met in another dimension during his previous adventure across the multiverse. Miles felt a rush of excitement and relief as he realized that he wasn't alone in this universe. "Hey Miles," Gwen shouted as she approached him. "Long time no see." "Gwen, what are you doing here?" Miles asked, surprised to see her in his dimension. "I was just passing by and thought I'd say hi," Gwen replied with a smile. "So, what's new?" Miles hesitated for a moment before answering. He had been dealing with a lot lately, what with balancing his schoolwork, his superhero duties, and his complicated relationships with his friends and family. But he didn't want to burden Gwen with his problems. "Nothing much, just the usual Spider-Man stuff," Miles said with a shrug. Same old," Gwen said with a grin. "But you know, Miles, you don't always have to be the lone hero. Sometimes it's good to have a team to rely on." Miles nodded thoughtfully. He never really thought about it that way. He had always been the lone Spider-Man, relying on his own skills and instincts to get the job done. But maybe Gwen had a point. As if on cue, a strange energy began to swirl around them, and Miles felt himself being pulled towards the center of it. He grabbed onto Gwen's arm, and she grabbed onto his, and they held on for dear life as they were pulled into a swirling vortex of light and color. When the swirling stopped, Miles and Gwen found themselves in a strange, otherworldly dimension. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and the sound of crackling energy. And there, standing in front of them, was a team of spider people. But there were others he had never seen before, such as Spider-Woman, who was covered in spider webs, and Penny Parker, who had a giant robot that she controlled with her mind. The team explained to Miles and Gwen that they were charged with protecting the multiverse from threats that could destroy it, and they had just detected a new threat that could do just that. Miles and Gwen listened as the team explained the situation, and they could feel the weight of the responsibility that was now on their shoulders. They were no longer just the spider people of Brooklyn, but they were now part of a team charged with saving the multiverse. As the team began to discuss their plan of action, Miles couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and excitement. He was no longer alone in this fight, but he was part of a team of spider-powered heroes from across the multiverse. It was a feeling that he had never experienced before, and it was exhilarating. But just as they were about to set their plan into motion, an argument broke out amongst the team. They couldn't agree on the best way to handle the situation, and Miles found himself caught in the middle. As the argument escalated, Miles felt a sense of frustration and disappointment. He had always believed that being a hero was about doing the right thing, no matter what. But with the arrival of the Spider People, the multiverse begins to feel like home to Miles. He begins to realize that he is not alone in his struggles, and that there are other heroes who are just as capable of facing down the villains who threaten their respective worlds. Miles felt a rush of excitement as they scoped the area, looking for the threat. Alas, they found him, a being standing in the middle of the fray, with glowing red eyes and some kind of a device in his hands. It was Morbius. Morbius stood at the center of the fray, grinning malevolently as he summoned a horde of grotesque monsters to his aid. They swarmed towards the spider people, a writhing mass of claws and teeth. Miles leapt into the air, his spider sense tingling as he evaded the monster's attacks. He could feel the weight of his responsibility, knowing that the fate of the universe rested on his shoulders. He saw Gwen hurtling towards him, spinning her webs to ensnare one of the monsters. Miles followed suit, his web lashing out to trap the creatures in a cocoon of sticky silk. The battle raged on, with each spider person bringing their own unique skills to the table. Peter B. Parker cracks jokes and offers sage advice, while Spider-Woman uses her web-slinging abilities to scout the area. Spider-Man Noir brings his brooding intensity to the group, while Penny Parker and her mech offer technological support. Miles could see Morbius holding aloft a device that crackled with dark energy. He knew that was the key to stopping him, and he charged towards him with all his might. Morbius sneered at him, his eyes blazing malevolently. "You spider people are so predictable," he spat. "You think you can just band together and stop me? I am Morbius, the master of the universe, and I will not be defeated." Miles gritted his teeth, refusing to back down. He launched himself at Morbius, his fists crackling with electricity. Morbius met him head-on, his own power sparking in response. The two clashed in a shower of sparks, each blow ringing out like a thunderclap. Miles fought with all his might, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew that this was his moment, that everything he had trained for had led up to this. He saw the other spider people fighting bravely beside him, and he knew that he could not let them down. With one final surge of power, Miles landed a decisive blow on Morbius. The villain let out a howl of rage and despair as he was hurled back, his device shattering into a million pieces. Miles and the other spider people stood victorious, their hearts swelling with pride and triumph. They had saved the multiverse, working together as a team, and Miles knew that he had learned a valuable lesson. He had seen the power of teamwork, the importance of standing up for what he believed in, and the bravery that came from fighting for a cause greater than himself. As they swung back towards their respective dimensions, Miles felt a sense of camaraderie with the other spider people. He knew that he was no longer alone in his fight, that there were others who shared his struggles and his dreams, and as he landed back in Brooklyn, he knew that he was ready for whatever the future held, ready to face down any challenge that came his way. As the credits roll, we see a post-credit scene that teases the arrival of a new spider person. It's none other than Spider-Ham, who has somehow managed to make his way into Miles' universe. As he looks around in awe, he mutters to himself, "This is gonna be one wild big tale."